Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Flame Emperor episode number 488 based on novel. So let's start. The location of the Flower God Palace is quite peculiar. The whole body is standing on a mountain range surrounded by countless monster flowers. The flowers are fragrant, so it forms a world of flowers. Some ancient tyrannical atmosphere. There are countless exotic flowers, and against the backdrop of this simple atmosphere, the ancient halls stand strangely on top of some huge flower stamens. Amazing. Boom. No matter how beautiful this sea of flowers was in the past, under the attack of those sticky demonic energy, almost ordinary flowers in the thousands of flowers have withered. It is showing a morbid withering that is extremely distorted, and it is gloomy. Xiao Yan and the two walked along the Huahai Mountains, from a hidden cave underground, and quietly headed towards the top of the mountain, but along the way, they heard a huge loud noise from the Huahai world above the ground. A black giant finger fell vertically from the top of the mountain, shattering the sky and the earth. The sea of flowers has long lost their original color, but the sea of magic is tumbling, and the evil spirit is overwhelming. The devil sea Zaidu descended from the sky carrying the evil black fingers, smashing the void of this world, and even those flowers that faintly bloomed with some ancient power were completely wiped out at this time. Only the few flowers left are struggling to support. In the world of the Sea of Flowers, the core of the source is composed of these flowers with various miraculous effects. Once these flowers disappear completely, I am afraid that the Hua Divine Palace will also lose its natural protection and show itself in front of the world without any precautions. The huge soul power allows Xiao Yang to feel the destructive fluctuations from the outside world, even if he didn't see it with his own eyes. Being able to release this terrifying energy, its strength is self-evident, and relying on Xiao Yang's perception, the source of this breath is likely to originate from the core of the Flower Palace. After a while, the deafening sound of energy blasting from the outside was incessant, the blue veins on Xiao Yang's palm burst out, and an extreme anger filled out, Red King rank. Xiao Yang. Due to the original aura in her body, Yueru's strength is now floating in her body. Seeing Xiao Yang's appearance, she can only try to comfort her. It's okay, let's go. Xiao Yang shook his head, but deep within his body, a long-lost memory poured into his heart uncontrollably. It was a precious memory of a trip to the demonic beast mountains in the Dochi continent. In the memory, there was a woman named Yun Yun. Hehe, what the two envoys said was right. Even how well-planned the adults are, it is inevitable that some fish will slip through the net. But I'm a little curious. How did these two cowardly humans escape from other regions? When Xiao Yang and the other two carefully swept toward the mountain through the underground passage, the soil on the ground actually surged, and 4 groups of extremely dark and evil auras intercepted them in front of Xiao Yang. 4 white kings. At this moment, Yueru frowned and hurriedly stood in front of Xiao Yang. From the breath of these 4 people, she smelled a rather sharp fluctuation. The evil air mass slowly revolved, and after the smooth breath, the 4 merged into one, and the prototype appeared. A dark shadow quietly emerged from it, and as soon as it appeared, it looked down at Xiao Yang and the 2 of them with indifference. The most eye-catching is this guy's head, which has 4 living scarlet heads. The heads are not human-like, but dormant like the heads of snakes. A vicious aura impacts Xiao Yang's mind. Let me come, the power in your body hasn't stabilized yet, calm down for a while. Seeing the imprint of the moon god flickering between Yueru's eyebrows, Xiao Yang took the lead to stop Yu. What kind of sorcery is this? The double reincarnation level peak strength, the breath of the 4 white king powerhouses? Xiao Yang sensed that the 4 emotions of cruelty, coldness, violence, and resentment, and 4 completely different forces, appeared on this guy at the same time, more or less a little surprised. Call out. The next moment, the 4 monsters showed no trace of nonsense, their bodies surging with a flick, and an evil magic light containing 4 color streamers burst out from their fingertips. The magic light roared, instantly piercing the entire void, and directly attacked Xiao Yang with a strong killing power. Tianshu. Xiao Yang's complexion was a little solemn, and the power of his soul emerged, instantly forming a soul gauze to bless Yueru's body, and then running the burning dew, also filled with 5-colored flames, pointed out. Tianshu is naturally a defensive soul-fighting skill that Xiao Yang obtained from the soul source. The specific performance is to form a soul gauze, which can effectively isolate the enemy's unexpected soul power attack, whether it is acting on himself or not. Or to protect others, is a good means. As for the great immortal technique level Holy Soul Heavenly Lock, it is a unilaterally extremely lethal attack method. Boom. The 4-color magic light and the 5-color flame were intertwined, and suddenly bursts of violent energy were set off in this dark underground cave. Suffer to death. When the 4 monsters saw that the flames displayed by Xiao Yang were so strange, they were able to intercept the joint strength of the 4 of them. Silence and death. A cold snort appeared, and then a scarlet bloodline that seemed to span a long time and space condensed out. At the moment when this death moon line appeared, the immortal power in Xiao Yang's body suddenly jumped, and a long-lost heart palpitation filled his heart. With a sound, the scarlet bloodline was like a beam of light penetrating the sky and the earth, lightly passing Xiao Yang's body, pushing Xiao Yang's body back quickly. For tricky guys. Encountering the great change, Xiao Yang only felt that death was approaching, but it disappeared without any change. The next moment, Xiao Yang forcibly stabilized his body, and there was a violent cough from his throat. He stretched out his hand to see, and a trace of blood spilled down his throat. The dead light just now, although it was separated by the power of immortality and immortality, the qi and blood in Xiao Yang's body were actually tumbling. The holy flame is in your hands, but it's just a waste of time. Fuck to death, boy. Seeing Xiao Yang block their strongest attack so strangely, there was a trace of solemnity in the eyes of the 4 heads. Yes. Then let you see the real radiance of holy flame. Xiao Yang smiled and then stretched out his palm very quickly. At this time, on the palm of the hand, a beautiful and delicate lotus platform, like a fruit of destruction in a moment, intensified. Bang bang bang. Without giving the 4 monsters any time to detour, Xiao Yang instantly let go, and the Buddha's fury was released in a reincarnation. With his excellent soul power, he locked the 4 monsters impressively. The afterglow of the flames in the sky erupted slowly, rendering the entire underground cave as awe-inspiring and fresh as a barren land. After being cleaned by such a hot divine power, the entire underground cave, like a new world after the baptism of a volcanic eruption, is extraordinarily clear and moving. Boom. In the underground cave, waves of aggressive energy tides continued to spread, and even the void was slightly twisted. Not dead yet. Xiao Yang looked at the miserable appearances of the 4 monsters in front of him with scars, and even some scarlet bloodstains left by the power of the holy flame on the 4 heads, and immediately wondered. Being able to survive under the coercive attack of his 5 kinds of holy flames, the strength of these 4 evil creatures should not be underestimated. However, although this guy did not perish in the attack of Xiao Yanfu's wrathful reincarnation, but at this time he appeared to be on the verge of dying, and he was not far from dying. In the final analysis, it was because of the power generated by the Buddha's wrath. The lethality it caused was still too violent and powerful. Little beast. If you want to destroy a few of us, you can't imagine it better. For songs, fall. The 4 heads were stunned together, revealing an extremely distorted look of hatred. There was a frenzy in the eyes, and all the power in the body was immediately detonated, and there was a faint arc of self-exploding, trying to talk to Xiao Yang. Traces of perishing. Not good. Xiao Yang was greatly surprised for a while, although the Buddha's wrath samsara can already be pinched, but just after condensing such powerful fighting skills, the power in his body was not fully adjusted for a while. When Xiao Yang realized that the danger was approaching, the power in his body burst out, trying to cover himself and Yueru's body, but the operation of those powers was a step too late. The brilliance of the moon god, destroy it. At such a critical moment, a light voice came out from behind Xiao Yang. A silver radiance slowly poured out, shot flying, instantly spared Xiao Yang, and rushed towards the 4 evil spirits. The 4 monsters in front of him instantly turned into an evil blood sphere, which was covered with a heart-pounding wave, roaring away at Xiao Yang, and the power contained in it was enough to endanger Xiao Yang's life. At this moment, Yu's body suddenly disappeared from Xiao Yang's face, and then the whole body was bathed in a bright and holy silver moonlight. The moon wheel appeared behind her, and an ancient aura rippled out. Under such coercion, the blood cells produced by the self-destruction of the 4 monsters hummed and trembled. In the blink of an eye, the evil energy in the entire underground cave dissipated, and the original tranquility was restored. This breath, and this moon wheel, is it also a divine weapon? Xiao Yang stood where he was, looking at Yu, who was like a son of the moon god in front of him, and there were thousands of thoughts in his mind. When this girl just carried out that kind of terrifying attack, even the execution ruler in her body gave off a sense of extreme awe. It's so weird. Moreover, although this 4-headed evil creature is on the verge of death, the evil power contained in the body should not be underestimated. Solved. Let's go. I have a bad feeling that something big is going to happen to the Flower God Palace. Yueru coughed lightly, hurriedly withdrew the power such as the moon wheel, and pulled Xiao Yang to run towards the top of the cave, but even Xiao Yang did not realize that every time Yueru used this power, the ancient imprint of the moon god between the eyebrows contained the ancient power will slowly be depicted on the moon wheel. Only Yueru herself knew that once the imprint of the moon god between the eyebrows was completely portrayed, I am afraid that the legendary goddess woman would also come. At that time, Yueru's strength may truly surpass that of this world, but I don't know whether it was the so-called moon god or Yueru at that time. The two were extremely fast, and they had just left the underground cave and entered the core of the Flower God Palace. Just arrived at the core of the Flower Palace, a dizzying space barrier flickered out. Xiao Yang and the two only felt a flower in front of them, accompanied by an extremely rich and fragrant floral fragrance, which was extremely tyrannical. The energy of heaven and earth emerges. Outside the space formed by the sea of flowers, clumps of sticky demonic energy kept whistling and flapping, trying to invade. Obviously, this is the core of the Huashan Palace surrounded by the sea of magic. Among the barrier formed by the sea of flowers is an undulating mountain of flowers. Several isolated peaks rise one after the other on the mountain. It is covered with colorful flowers. From a distance, there are actually countless petals in the sky. Flying and dancing, it vaguely constitutes a beautiful paradise fairyland. It's so ancient. Xiao Yang stared at the barrier of the sea of flowers. At the end of his line of sight, a look of astonishment appeared in his eyes. It seems that Xiao Yang can clearly feel at this time that there are many extremely huge ancient forces hidden in this sacred and fresh flower sea barrier. In addition, a wave of holy flames in Xiao Yang's body agitated. Evil fluctuations also came out from above the lonely peak in the distance. Above the lonely peak, I am afraid it is the place where the master of the Huashan Palace lives and repairs, and there is such a change in the holy flame in the body. Now here, I am afraid there is at least one evil monster that can endanger Xiao Yang's life. Just when Xiao Yang was absent-mindedly sensing the detailed aura in the sea of flowers, some colorful petals slowly fell from the air and shot towards Xiao Yang and the two of them. Be careful, the composition of these petals is an extremely ancient formation. And the fragrance released by these flowers also has some kind of hallucinogenic power. Once it too much, even the reincarnation-level powerhouse can only fall into an illusion. Fortunately, Yueru knew a lot and easily intercepted the petals and those strange floral fragrances for Xiao Yang. The petals float above the sky at will, but there is a very complicated trajectory in it, as if protecting this last piece of paradise. It takes too much time to crack this formation. Is there any secret way to go straight to the main peak? Xiao Yang came back to his senses, and saw the deafening energy fluctuations constantly coming from the main peak, and immediately said with a slightly dignified expression, "The complicated and mysterious trajectories of these floral fragrances and petals all prove that this place is protected by a formation." Now that the matter of the Flower God Palace is imminent, Xiao Yang has no time to decipher the formation. The most important thing is that this formation is something that Xiao Yang has never seen before, even if he does it himself, I am afraid. Teacher and senior Hua Qing'er are family friends, so I know a way to the main peak. However, the breath of the palace master of Huashan Palace is not in the main peak, but in the side peak. Xiao Yang, follow me. Yueru forcibly suppressed the restless forces in her body, twisted her palms, waved a moonlight, sheltering the bodies of the two, and took the lead to swept towards a mountain. Xiao Yang quickly followed. "Wait for me." While following Yueru along the path to the side peak, Xiao Yang's heart that had been quiet in his body suddenly beat abruptly, as if there was some dizzying old friend in the Flower God Palace. At the same time, on several peaks in the Hua High Barrier, the sacred energy and the evil energy are indistinguishable, and they seem to be evenly matched. That kind of shocking energy fluctuation, I am afraid it will not be a scene of petty trouble. In the Flower Sea Barrier, the side peak. The side peaks here are shrouded in clouds and mist, and countless delicate and dripping flowers and plants are embellished on it as resident. Most of the mountain peaks are full of sinister rock ravines with ancient power, and there are several exquisite buildings and small pavilions in between, but at this time, no one cares about these beautiful scenery. Some of the figures who fled and fled, their expressions were solemn, and the breath in their bodies was dying, as if they had just experienced some kind of life and death battle. "Palace Master, take your senior sister and go. The target of these two thieves is you. Let's go out and stop them." There were about 10 people in the crowd, including a middle-aged woman in a silver robe, and a pale figure with scars all over her body. Even her breath and demeanor were extremely weak. "Cough cough, help me up. There is such a catastrophe in the fairy world, and our Huashan Palace is bound to do so. Yuna, do you remember what I gave you?" The injured woman forcibly stood up, her eyes filled with unbelievable pressure, and she said coldly. However, before the sound fell, a mouthful of poisonous blood carrying some evil aura slowly spewed out of Hua Qing's mouth. Once upon a time, Hua Qing, the master of the Huashan Palace, was considered the supreme powerhouse in the entire immortal world, with an elegant and noble figure and a quiet and beautiful appearance. Invisibly, there is an oppression from the superior. But now he is in a miserable state of being terminally ill, which is really heart-wrenching. Palace Master, Teacher. As soon as Hua Qing finished speaking, dozens of disciples around her said solemnly, "Boom." The next moment, a black light beam, like a death ray, suddenly passed through the heads of everyone. The void collapsed instantly, and a very greedy humming sound sounded. Hua Qing, why bother with such a useless resistance? Although your strength is tyrannical, but the dark disease in your body has recurred, and now you have to protect dozens of beloved disciples behind you. Above the empty mountain, two shadows stepped out one step at a time, roaring coldly. When these two shadows appeared, the energy between heaven and earth suddenly became restless, and it seemed that there was a strong repulsion against the two evil forces, but to no avail. Teacher. Seeing these two shadows appear, the faces of the dozens of disciples around Hua Qing turned black. Among them, Yun had a strong worry hanging on her face, and hurriedly supported Hua Qing, who was floating around her. At this time, Yun was not feeling well. The white clothes and white dress had already been stained with traces of blood and dust. Even the 3,000 blue silk that fell vertically in the past was quite messy at this time, and the beautiful face was even more. It was filled with an unprecedented seriousness. Yuna, it's not advisable to stay here for a long time. I'll stop them later, and you will take the opportunity to leave here with your junior sisters. Leave here, join the Moon God Palace and the Jade Lake Wonderland, and then go directly to the center of the Fairyland. Secret keys and holy flames, remember to protect them and never fall into the hands of these gangsters. Hua Qing pretended to speak calmly, but her robes were already stained with bright red blood, and the scars were obvious. After a while, he slowly lowered his forehead and said to the dozens of disciples beside him. At the beginning, she left the Flower God Palace without authorization to search for the Flower God body, and she rescued Yun from the air in the Dochi continent. When she led the latter back to the immortal realm, she was injured by the dark demons among the evil tribes outside the realm. Now that her strength is tortured by a dark disease, I am afraid that she can't even exert the strength of the quasi-fifth level reincarnation. And the two powerhouses who came to snipe the Flower God Palace this time are both in the fourth level realm. To protect dozens of disciples with a seriously injured body, it is indeed more than enough. Palace Master, absolutely. This time, we swear to live and die with the Flower God Palace. In any case, we will protect you and senior sister, and break out of the siege. Kill. The mighty and firm voice came out, and everyone suddenly got up first and stood in front of Hua Qing and Yun together. They have proven their position with action. The Flower God Palace has been established for countless years, and so far there has never been a seedling with a flower body, and Yun is the most qualified disciple to cultivate into a flower body due to some misunderstandings. Therefore, the disciples of these flower palaces, of course, spare no effort to help shelter her. Wonderful and wonderful. It's really touching. But don't worry, none of you can run today. Myriad demons lock soul. One of the two shadows stepped out, and under the black robe suddenly stretched out a strange arm engraved with countless blood-colored lines, easily waving in the void. Every time you wave, the sacred aura in this world will weaken a bit, and even a pool of blood-red magic light slowly emerges, and under its delicate control, it turns into an evil blood chain of thousands of feet. At the moment when this evil blood chain condensed and formed, dozens of Huashengong disciples felt at a loss for a while, and even the power in their bodies stopped working. Give Ben the lock. The cold roar sounded, and the evil blood chain passed through the void, easily shattered and repelled the interception of dozens of disciples, and roared away at Yun and Hua Qing. Do not. Teacher, you can't die. We will get out alive. Yun Mei's eyes shrank slightly, as if she realized something. Tears flowed uncontrollably in her eyes, and even her body moved instantly. At this moment, she stood in front of Hua Qing, opened her hands, and choked out. Ever since she left the Dochi continent and came to the Flower God Palace, Hua Qing treats herself like her own daughter all day long. Her original intention was to cultivate herself into a flower body and inherit a flower god, so as to prove the word Do God. Looking at the teacher in critical condition now, the string in Yun's heart was viciously fluctuating. Silly boy, this is all doomed. Crack. Hua Qing gently pushed Yun's delicate body away from her with both hands. Instead, her body swelled up, and the colorful and demonic flowers were blooming one after another. Do not. Dozens of heart-piercing roars resounded, but in the face of the huge coercion of the evil blood chain, they seemed to be unable to do anything. Forbidden Palace. At such a critical moment, a high-pitched divine roar resounded through the heavens and the earth like a savior. Boom! A magnificent ancient flame palace suddenly refracted from the void in front of Hua Qing'e, and then sheltered his entire body. The sacred ancient flame breath turned out to be a little bit of resistance, purifying the evil bloodlock. Holy flame! Reincarnation domain! 2 exclamations poured out from Hua Qing'e and the ****** ghost in the distance at the same time. Fortunately I caught up. Xiao Yang's body jumped, and with the short-distance space shuttle handprint, he accurately poured out of the void where Yun Yun fell. Are you all right? Xiao Yang's gentle, melting low voice poured out from Yun Yun's side. Suddenly Yun Yun seemed to have noticed something, and looked at the thin figure in front of him with a slightly blurred expression. It wasn't until a long time later that I was sure that the figure of Lu hugging himself was not the one who was thinking about it all day and night. Xiao Yang. Eyes opened and closed, a trace of joy and panic, with an unbelievable voice, slowly emerged from Yun Yu's mouth. Time and space are interlaced, and the two beauties are reuniting. Have not seen you for a long time. Feeling the tender person in his arms, especially seeing the messy 3000 blue silk and the pale corners of his lips, a trace of heart-wrenching pain emerged from the bottom of Xiao Yang's heart. At this moment, Yun Yun seemed to want to break free from Xiao Yang's chest, but after a little hesitation, she closed her eyes gently, enjoying the long-lost hug, and only let out a seductive low voice from the tip of her nose. The last time, I missed it. I won't miss it this time. Xiao Yang looked at the docile beauty in his arms, and 2 meaningful words sounded quietly. But, hearing Xiao Yang's words, Yun Yun's delicate body was shocked, as if she couldn't believe it. There's nothing to be said for. Because I am who I am. I am the Lord of the Endless Fire Territory. Xiao Yang laughed loudly, and there was a certain sense of relief in his voice, and a touch of indescribable anger. The Lord of Endless Fire Territory, Xiao Yang? 2 evil shadows in the distance exclaimed at the same time, their eyes locked on Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang's strength is not strong, but there seems to be some sacred thing in his body, which makes them fear 3 points. Go back, this guy is not easy, don't take it lightly. In an instant, the eternal black shadow hidden in the void spoke to the shadow. These 2 are the 2 guardians under the Bloodstone Evil Lord. Their strength is comparable to that of the Red King, and they have reached the level of the 4th reincarnation level, and because of the strange evil power of the Bloodstone Evil Lord, they joined forces to the strength of the lower level, under the 5-layer reincarnation level, can be called invincible. At this moment, Hua Qing'e leaned over and said solemnly, Xiao Yang, look at the teacher. Seeing Hua Qing'e's crisis contact, Yunnan hurriedly broke free from Xiao Yang's arms like a deer. This girl. Xiao Yang and Hua Qing'e shook their heads at the same time, but even Yun Yun didn't know why every time he met Xiao, his calm heart would become restless without his own control. What a spooky method. Xiao Yang nodded, and then looked at Hua Qing'e's body. Hua Qing'e's skin, flesh, and even the bones in her body were all flowing with scarlet blood. Those blood were the original blood of the demon of darkness. Even Xiao Yang today was helpless. If he made a rash move, he would probably only implicate Xiao Yang, and it would be extremely vicious. With the constraints of such a hidden disease, Hua Qing'e may not have much time. Rest assured. Reluctantly handing Yun Yun to Yueru, Xiao Yang and Hua Qing'e got up together and lifted off into the sky. Although Yueru was surprised by the relationship between Xiao Yang and Yun Yun, but after a brief hesitation, she released a gentle force to protect Yundao and the remaining disciples of the Flower God Palace. From the moment the Moon God Palace was destroyed and he took over the imprint of the Moon God, Yu and Xiao Yang seemed to be people from 2 different worlds, and Yu's mood and feelings were also changing subtly. You two, have a good fight. Just after taking off, staring at the 2 extremely evil shadows in front of him, the corner of Xiao Yang's mouth raised a frantic killing intent. If I were a little later, I'm afraid Yun Yun and the entire Hua Divine Palace would be brutally murdered. These 2 beasts. It seems that this plan is not too meticulous. But with the current I can't restrain me. The 2 evil shadows made a sound at the same time, and the magic sound turned slightly, and it turned out to be a terrifying force that eroded the soul. Are you invincible at the 5th level of reincarnation? 652 Literature Network. Bring it on. Xiao Yang's chest suddenly burst into flames, like a reel of flames, and even the Devil's Cube began to surge. Is it invincible under the 5-layer reincarnation? Then this time, I will beat them to the point of annihilation. Dragons have inverse scales, and they will be angry if they touch them. Xiao Yang, I can temporarily stop that black shadow for you. The blood-colored shadow is only half a step with the strength of the quadruple reincarnation. With the strength of Yun Yun, Yueru, and others, you should. Hua Qing'er was somewhat worried in her heart. Although she had a dark attack, she still said through gritted teeth, "Then I will trouble the seniors. But this beast, let me end it." Xiao Yang said word by word. His violent appearance was as ferocious as a mad beast. Ha ha ha. What a cool guy. Even if you have a lot of holy flames and have a strong repression on our territory, this ambassador is a quasi-quadruple reincarnation level, not comparable to those who are not in the 3rd level. The ghost seemed to have heard a huge joke and sneered. A lot of nonsense. Suffer to death. Xiao Yang flicked slightly, and immediately raised one hand. He saw that in the void, suddenly there were countless energies of heaven and earth converging. In the blink of an eye, a glaze-colored flame gushed out from his body, and a flaming dragon that was nearly 10,000 feet long roared out, smashed viciously at the blood-colored phantom not far away. Looking at Xiao Yang's indescribably terrifying attack, an inexplicable terrifying feeling arose in the ghost's heart. This kind of attack must be destroyed or resisted, otherwise, once you hit yourself, the consequences will be disastrous. Boom. Such thoughts flashed through his mind, and the blood-colored ghost raised his head and sneered, and then his hand suddenly stretched out from under the black robe and clenched tightly against the void. Crash. With the blood-colored ghost's actions, a blood-colored vortex suddenly emerged from the void in front of it, and the vortex was filled with endless scarlet-stench blood water. Break me. Looking at the incomparably rich and evil blood in the blood-colored vortex, the blood-colored ghost snorted coldly, and the blood water actually rolled up in an instant. In the blink of an eye, countless blood water formed a thick blood-colored giant shield that looked like a defensive energy shield. Cover it. Boom. The 10,000 Zhong fire dragon viciously bombarded the blood-colored giant shield, unreservedly venting the sacred power belonging to the holy flame, venting the hatred of this heaven and earth energy for evil force. In just a few breaths, energy ripples spread out from the sturdy and unusually blood-colored giant cauldron, and even on the giant shield, tiny cracks that were difficult to detect with the naked eye continued to emerge. It seems that the holy flame attack released by Xiao Yang in a state of rage, even the monstrous evil power among the evil tribes outside the territory has become quite weak. Little chops. The blood-colored phantom looked at the increasingly obvious cracks on the giant shield, and immediately took off his black robe, revealing his extremely terrifying appearance. The blood-colored ghost behind him looks the same as a normal human being, except that in his eyes, there is a touch of madness that is almost twisted, with the addition of his head, arms, etc. At the place, a line of shocking blood-colored evil patterns were carved out, and at a glance, it turned out that there was a particularly depressing fluctuation in the chest. Even the breathing slowed down, and the blood in the body stopped flowing. Tear off. At the moment when the blood-colored giant shield was about to be shattered, the blood-colored ghost's eyes froze, and a monstrous killing intent emerged. It turned out to be crushing the blood-colored giant shield, urging all the power around him, and leaning towards Xiao Yang. The stench of blood in the sky was like a thunderbolt, madly facing Xiao Yang's skin, blasting the vital point. Crack. The two attacks collided, and the whole world contracted violently like a heart, and an indescribable humming sound of explosion resounded. As soon as they fought each other, the two of them seemed to be on the same level, and they were all on their own. It was just that the auras of the two of them were boiling and ignited, like two world-beating beasts, about to launch a terrifying offensive that would shake the heavens and the earth. The holy flame controlled by this beast is very powerful. After a failed hit, the two stood in the sky respectively, facing each other at a distance. The quasi-quadruple reincarnation level is still too thorny. It seems that some killers must be brought out. Xiao Yang's eyes narrowed slightly. It seemed that they were evenly matched just now. In fact, his body was humming and vibrating, and even his arms felt sore. The difference in strength between the two is still too great, and even Saint Flame cannot make up for the gap. At the same time, Dragon God transformation, Do Soul and Saint Flame emerged together, slowly watching the blood-colored evil shadow. Since you are determined to be my enemy, let you be a great tribute under our perfect plan. The blood-colored phantom's complexion changed uncertainly, and suddenly locked on Xiao Yang after taking a breath, and sneered with a slightly vicious look in his eyes. Witchcraft, torrent of blood. Seeing Xiao Yang being sheltered by Sheng Yang, he was unable to cause any substantial damage to the latter even after racking his brains. The blood-colored ghost body was shocked, and the whole body was completely shattered little by little under everyone's attention. After the quasi-quad reincarnation level blood-colored phantom shattered, the entire world suddenly dimmed, and a blood-colored torrent of thousands of feet in size appeared between the world without warning. Just appeared, it brought waves of turbulent waves, completely blocking Xiao Yang's retreat, completely wrapped in it, and the faint energy fluctuations overflowing from the blood-colored torrent actually hit the depths of everyone's soul, causing Yun and several people included. All the hairs are standing up. This kind of fluctuation is probably comparable to the intermediate-level immortal arts of the Great Thousand World. With factors such as the blessing of evil power, it seems to be infinitely close to the scope of the Great Immortal Art. The quasi-quadruple reincarnation-level powerhouses attack-type fighting skills that are close to the Great Immortal Technique, the lethality. I am afraid it is self-evident. Xiao Yang, be careful. This kind of trick is an insidious trick among the extraterrestrial evil clan. Once it is hit, I am afraid that it will become a walking corpse of the extraterritorial evil clan. The blood-colored torrent flowed slowly, and every time it surged, bursts of mourning erupted. In the distance, Hua Qing'er instantly shook off the black ghost, and said solemnly, "To be able to force him to use his trump card, this year's Saint Flame Controller is well deserved. But you can't protect yourself." Not necessarily. As soon as the voice fell, the two figures were intertwined, and the voids that were fighting along the way were all bursting with extremely terrifying energy storms, and there was a vague overflow of amazing fluctuations that tore up the world. Surrounded by a torrent of blood, Xiao Yang only felt that he was in a cage with no way to escape, and even his own strength, life breath, etc., were being eaten away bit by bit. Once the power was eaten up, I am afraid it is also self-defeating. Holy flame, origin. The next moment, Xiao Yang's eyes sank, and 5 kinds of flames slowly rose from his body, setting it off like a rising hot sun. Hey, you idiot. Just when Xiao Yang was about to activate the fusion of the source of holy flame to break this extremely terrifying torrent of blood, there was a rather angry low-pitched voice in Xiao Yang's mind. Senior. Xiao Yang frowned, obviously not knowing the problem. Holy flames are merged into Buddha's wrath reincarnation. The triple reincarnation level is enough to cause damage, and the source fusion can only make you threaten this quasi-quadruple reincarnation level, and it is still unable to cause a fatal blow. But it is time to use such a killer now. Too early. Now you are like an idiot who has a huge treasure trove but doesn't know how to call it. The voice of the spirit of the god-killing ruler resounded. What else is there in my body? Hearing this, Xiao Yang suddenly stopped the movements in his hands and tried to recall. In his body, apart from the wood attribute and the thunder attribute, the ruler of the gods, the lower body, etc., there seems to be nothing left. But the spirit of the ruler of the gods seems to be guiding. Could it be fire spirit orb? Suddenly, a bold idea emerged. Huilingzhu, your head. What an elm head. That thing is just a key, it has no use for you today. Meditation. Run. Burn Ju. How come this kind of thing that is above the god level of the Great Thousand Worlds is in your hands, and it is no different from some tattered copper and iron? If your elders of the Xiao family know about this, you won't have to climb out of the coffin and abuse you thousands of times. The spirit of God execution ruler almost roared at Xiao Yang, and rolled his eyes before he finished speaking. Boom. The torrent of blood in the outside world kept accumulating and condensed, and a huge depressing aura actually caused Xiao Yang's breathing to become extremely slow. There's no time left, run Fenju, carefully sense the changes that Fenju brings to you, and what appears after running Fenju, all you have to do is to control it and use its power. After finishing speaking, the spirit of Ju Shenkai fell silent. The next moment, Xiao Yang calmed down and carefully ran Fenju. Just after running Fenju, Xiao Yang only felt that all the holy flames in his body quieted down together, and immediately followed the running route of Fenju and poured into it, setting off himself very beautifully. After a while, a small cauldron of flames that was beating slightly emerged from its chest and poured into Xiao Yang's line of sight. What is the origin of this little cauldron? Although Xiao Yang had many doubts in his heart, he didn't have time to think about it. He stretched out his hand and took off the small flame cauldron and held it in his hand. It turned in Xiao Yang's palm. What is this? In the blood-colored torrent, it was transformed by the blood-colored ghost, but it was different from the self-destruction. At this time, a touch of doubt also troubled him. Do not care. Destroy it. The sound of the blood-colored shadow just fell, and the blood-colored torrent surged into the sky, with extremely evil fluctuations, pierced through the void at an alarming speed, and slammed into Xiao Yang. Boom. The entire blood-colored torrent collapsed in an instant. A viscous blood-colored giant wave raged out, and wherever it passed along the way, the void was twisted and collapsed, and no life energy was spared, annihilating it. Seeing the attack of such a formation, Xiao Yang's pupils shrank tightly, the hair all over his body stood on end, and there was quite an urge to slap the head of the god-punishing ruler with blood. Buzzing. Seemingly drawn by such monstrous waves, the small flame cauldron on Xiao Yang's palm suddenly made a humming sound, and then a powerful attraction erupted directly, sucking the 5 holy flames in Xiao Yang's body and swallowing them away. Go! The blood-colored giant wave was suppressed and destroyed in a posture of lifting the sky, and a burst of pain and despair surged in the hearts of countless people. However, just when such an attack was about to hit Xiao Yang, the small cauldron of flames shook, and the mouth of the cauldron exploded. An ordinary dim light. As soon as the dim light appeared, it shot out from the mouth of the cauldron like a slingshot, and slammed into the monstrous waves, trembling gently. Then, the monstrous waves like a man-eating demon were unexpectedly in the crowd. Under the gaze, it shattered. This video will end here.